sponsored.
Did it
Actually,
say?
was sent to me. Not
This
even joking.
was also sent to her.
Yeah.
Um,
A little different. Yeah, it's a little different.
why can't I speak?
I'm here.
One more time. Low anxiety and low avoid. Okay.
Take your time. You look really good right now. I had to stop myself. I was make some quick time here. I'm such a fucking sloth, dude.
You're tired.
We're talking about attachment styles today. This
Today.
is Steph's favorite topic. What's your first favorite topic? Me.
You, surrounded by idiots, love languages, attachment
Can I say mine?
Yeah.
Sylvia.
Sylvia, Paul.
Robert, Frederick.
I love that you go by their first names.
We're on a first name basis.
When I went to LA with my friends like years ago,
Posh.
we went to Catch LA, which is like a nice restaurant, and Chris Brown was there. No, Jason Derulo was there.
Jason Derulo.
When we left, I was like telling a story, and I was like, yeah, Derulo was blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, why did I act like we're best friends?
Because you're posh.
Yeah, Derulo was there.
Because you roll with them. You roll with the Derulos.
That's
We're talking about attachment styles today.
Let's start off with the one that I feel like nobody is.
Secure.
Yeah.
I'm secure. Nobody else is. I went through a period of saying I'm secure, so that's why it's funny.
Yeah.
But I'm really not. I'm actually an avoidant, but we'll get to that. So there's 4 attachment styles. Steph, you want to kick it off? Wait, let's talk about why it's important to know this.
Attachment styles are like basically how an individual acts and connects with others, whether it be like romantic
Yes.
relationships, friendships, family members. A lot of times attachment styles are also just, they're mainly formed in your childhood, like with your caregivers and
Apparently
how you
0 to 2 is when it starts forming.
Really?
Yeah,
Well, that makes sense.
that's crazy. I just thought that you developed that because it's what did they say? Conditioning.
Yeah.
So, but like, how am I, as a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old, how do I understand words? Like, how am I understanding? Like, I don't know how to speak, so how do
That's true. Yeah, actually 0 to 2 is young.
Okay, I'm going to debug, because I listened to a specialist
Okay.
say it's from 0 to 2, but realistically, I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to read. I don't know how to compute. So how is it that I'm, like, unless, like, your parent is screaming at you, I feel like the fundamental, pivotal conditioning happens when you can kind of already understand what words are and, like, whatever. But that's just me. I'm not an expert.
I feel like that would make sense. I'm sure there's little things that obviously start to condition you 0 to 2.
Well,
but
maybe reactions.
Yeah, but the biggest, I guess, age where that would happen is, when you start to understand people, like
Maybe
when you start to
4
understand
onward.
words. You think 4?
3.
Yeah.
I don't know. 5 for me. I don't know.
Honestly, at 2, you can usually start to speak. So I would say like 2 and up.
I have no understanding of babies. Like, when does a baby say things? Like, I don't know. But I just don't know. Anyway, this is irrelevant. But yeah, Steph was saying, like, it forms in your childhood. The conditioning happens. Attachment styles, and I learned this, are your subconscious, not your conscious mind. So that's something that I didn't realize, because it's harder to change your attachment style because your conscious mind can't actively fight your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is like the things that you don't even know you're thinking about. You can tell that you're like reactive in arguments, and you could want to change that, but you're always going to be reactive if you don't actively try and work on that. Like, if you don't recognize that you are reactive, or you do, it's harder to you can't just tell yourself, stop being reactive.
No.
Like, that is like ingrained in your subconscious mind, your attachment style, which is why it's important to know what your attachment style is to better understand your partner and yourself in a relationship.
And I also think it's extremely important to be really brutally honest with yourself.
Yes.
Because I think everyone always wants to say like, oh, I'm secure in a relationship. I'm secure. Like, maybe I'm a little anxious, or maybe I avoid some things. But at least for me, like, I'm definitely an avoidant, but I think it's not that it's okay, but I know exactly where I avoid, to the point where I can catch it and I can say, you know, this is my bad and ugly side, and I'm aware of it. I don't try to say, like, because you hear some words when you hear clingy or insecure or unemotional and distant and, you know, all these bad negative words. You want to say, oh, I'm not that. I'm not clingy. I'm not emotional. I'm not blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you have to sit there and be like, wait, no, I can be clingy, or I can be really anxious when my partner doesn't want to be around me, or
I'm clingy with you.
Me too.
Also, I don't think there's any shame in admitting those things, because they're not inherently bad. Like, being like balance is good with everything. Like, if you're too distant and you're not clingy at all or affectionate at all, like, that's also bad. Like, I feel like you gotta, like, balance everything, you know?
Yeah, and even with, like, love languages we spoke about in previous episodes, it is so important to know not just yourself, but, like, the partner you're with, what they are, because right before we started this podcast clip, Mar was saying that apparently, like, anxious and avoidance always tend to get together.
It's true. Yeah.
And like that's fine, but you have to understand, like, is my partner really clingy? Is this like, instead of just getting annoyed right off the bat, understanding why they're like that. And
Yeah.
same with them saying, okay, she needs a little bit of her space, and even though I want to cling, let me give her a little bit of her space, you know?
It's so weird how that happens though, because it's like it's so much like opposites attract, because I feel like the anxious and the avoidant always date because they both lack what the other person gives them.
Yeah.
It's so weird how that happens, but it's true. Like like so many studies show that anxious and avoidant people always date.
Yeah.
Isn't
Well, I
that
mean,
so
it makes
weird?
sense because two avoidants would never date because they both just avoid the
Yeah,
whole thing.
exactly.
But, and I think if two anxious ever got together, that would just be so much anxiety, and like they would never
Exactly.
separate. That would be so unhealthy.
So let's talk about what they actually are, starting with secure, because I feel like that's the one that I don't really know anybody who is secure or has that attachment style, but
Yeah, secure attachment is low anxiety and low avoidance.
yes.
And it's, you're extremely trustworthy, you're confident, you have really high self-worth.
Crazy concept.
You accept support from others. You can
Wild.
acknowledge that it's not just you.
Mm-hmm.
You have really like healthy, secure relationships. You're comfortable with intimacy and
Yes.
independence.
Well, so I learned a lot this morning with the podcast I listened to. But secure people, apparently there's like studies showing that 51% of people are secure. That's a lie, because of what you just said. Everybody self-diagnoses themselves as secure because nobody wants to admit that they're the others, right? There's the other three anxious attachment styles. But apparently, like, whenever you're a kid, because this, like, say you're crying when you're a kid and your parent goes to you with complete and open, like, you know, emotional stability. What do you need from me? Are you okay? I'll sit with you and find out the problem. Then you realize, okay, they care about me. So it doesn't matter what I do. They will care about me and my feelings and everything. So you learn over time that you matter, your feelings matter, and you can open up to other people safely in a very nurturing environment. That is very rare, because 9 times out of 10, your parents are also suffering from things that they've gone through and their parents have gone through and whatever. And unintentionally, they take it out on their kids. So,
Or they just don't know exactly. I mean, it's their first
Exactly.
time being a parent. They're trying to figure out, how do I comfort this kid, right?
Exactly. So it's like, that is such a hard attachment style to obtain, because 9 times out of 10, it's very rare that you're going to find somebody who is so 100% secure with the past that they've had and the things that they've been through, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, other than that, it's exactly what Steph said. It's like, you are just honestly good, well-rounded, emotionally mature person. Like, you can express your emotions and also be there for other people. You're not jealous, you're not insecure, like, you're very confident in your own ability to love and be loved, which is very, very hard to find. But it's good if you found it.
No, honestly, it's very, very difficult. But, and I don't think, like, that's also not to say that, like, obviously it's extremely, extremely rare, but you can work towards it.
You definitely can. Yeah.
You just have to be able to look at yourself and say the things that could use work.
Yeah. And like what we said in the last episode of, like, you think you're healed until you kind of are faced with like a relationship and like another person. And that's the biggest thing with attachment styles is you could do all the work on yourself and you can whatever, but another person will bring out a side of you, because that's how you love. That's how you find out how you love and how to be loved, is through other people. So you can like be single forever and feel like you've grown and you've changed and you've healed, but until somebody else comes in and shows you, oh my God, they're pushing all these buttons I didn't realize I had, that's when you find out your attachment style.
Yeah. 100%.
So moving on to anxious, I guess that's the biggest one. One of the biggest ones.
I would say the next two are
the biggest. Yeah.
Anxious attachment style is, if you can guess, obviously high anxiety.
Yes.
And low avoidance, because they want to be around their partner 24/7. They're very clingy. They fear abandonment.
Physical touchy.
Yeah, a lot of physical touch is needed. A lot of reassurance. Constant reassurance. They need to feel validated. They're a little on the insecure side, obviously.
Yep.
They're seeking that reassurance from somebody else because themselves is not enough. I would say overly emotional.
Yeah.
And they again, fear of abandonment. They panic over separation from their partner.
Yeah. Background on that.
Yeah. You have the background.
I'm the background. This one for parents, it's if your parent is very good with your emotions, like very good at reassuring that your emotions are valid, but they're not that present. So that can come about in like, your parents are there for you, but they're also high anxiety and they're also absent in terms of like, if you have a parent who worked a long job and they were gone for most of the day and then you had to kind of stay with a grandparent or like a caregiver or daycare or whatever. It's like you rely on your parents, but they're not there. And whenever they are there, they're giving you that reassurance, but then they take it away unintentionally or intentionally. And that's why a lot of anxious people or anxious attachments, they have abandonment issues, because it's like, to them, it's not abandoning. They don't understand the concept that parents have to go and work, but then they come home, and if they're like stressed out about their job or whatever, it's like it builds this anxiety, apparently. So whenever you like later on in life, the reason why they cling is because their first sign of love was their parents, and then they give, but they pull back, even though it's unintentional. A kid doesn't know that. Why are they leaving me? Whatever. And so that creates a lot of anxious attachments.
Yeah, and that it honestly makes so much sense that people who have the anxious attachment style would be so clingy, is because, like, think about that. If you're getting all this reassurance from somebody and you feel so validated, and then it gets taken away, you want to cling to that because you don't want that to go away.
Exactly.
Like, that feeling that feels so good, you don't want that being ripped away from you.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it makes sense if you really think about it. And also, I think when it comes to men, a lot of men don't want to admit that they have an anxious attachment style, because it's not manly to be clingy or to be insecure or whatever, or just be, a little bit more emotional. Again, that's just self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
You have to, it's not a bad thing to be clingy or like overly emotional, but you have to be able to recognize that and say, like, no, that is what I am looking for in a partner. That is, like, not what I'm looking for in a partner, but you have to just be able to recognize that in order to work towards a secure relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we get to the one me and Steph are.
Yeah.
Avoidant. Steph, like, kick that off, Steph.
Avoidant. Dismissive avoidant.
Yeah.
Because there's another one that sometimes people use as avoidant too. But a dismissive avoidant is low anxiety. Don't just put the blame on me. I'm not. We're both secure. No, kidding.
I am.
I'm going to go right back to...
I am an avoidant. The one me and Steph are.
Yeah.
Avoidant. I don't really know anybody who is secure. I'm actually an avoidant, but we'll get to that. Avoidance.
Avoidance. This is low anxiety, high avoidance. Obviously, it's in the name. People who are avoidants are extremely, extremely hyper independent. They're very self-sufficient.
Yes.
They isolate themselves because they avoid relying on anybody. They don't need somebody to help them. They can do it on their own. They fear intimacy a little bit. Or a lot.
Or a lot of it.
They tend to distance themselves from others because, again, they're very hyper independent.
Right.
A little on the unemotional side, avoids closeness. I actually saw a quote where it said, somebody was talking about avoidance, and they said, we are the only person we can trust, others are not. And that is exactly what it is. It's, you almost learn that you're on your own. I don't need anybody to help me. So instead of, like, a secure attachment would say, I can do stuff on my own, but sometimes I need that extra support and sometimes I need that extra help. An avoidant is like, I can do that on my own. I don't need anything else.
Yeah.
I don't need your help. I don't need your support. I don't need anybody backing up what I'm saying. I'm good. They also tend to avoid deep feelings sometimes. With avoidance, like, I would say there's an extreme side to it and like a middle ground. I feel like me and you are very much so middle ground. I know a lot of avoidants will sit there and say, I don't deserve love and I don't deserve, to be loved and taken care of. I on my own, and that's just how it's going to be. I feel like with people like us, we are more so, no, we know we deserve love and we know we deserve to be taken care of. It's just very difficult for us to allow somebody in to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
This is kind of actually the complete opposite of, like, anxious. Like, you kind of don't really get that soft, coddly side of a parent when you're growing up. Like, it's very much like, I trust that you can, you're strong and you can do it on your own. And so even when you do have feelings, because every human being has feelings, it's like you keep it in because you're strong and it's drilled inside of you that, I mean, honestly, in my experience, like, it's like, I genuinely have, like, my family is not very sensitive or soft at all. So I never had that, like, oh, I can open up, like, whatever. And I've come to terms with that. To me, it's normal. So whenever I see an anxious attachment, I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, why are they so emotional? And that's why it's so important to, like, understand where you came from and, like, really, and I know everyone says, like, every therapist says, well, everything comes from your childhood. It actually does, though. Like, and your childhood really dictates your future. You may not see it affecting you when you're in your adolescence, but you really do start seeing it whenever you kind of hit the 25 mark and you're like, why am I like this? So in terms of, like, the avoidant and the anxious, just flip the experience from, like, what happened when you were a childhood, when you were a kid, like that love and reassurance and that almost coddly behavior, but like that absence because of whatever, a parent leaving for work or whatever. It's like the avoidance, like they kind of grew up in that where their own parents avoided their own feelings. So it's like they became, or the parents really took everything and like headstrong, like I'm not going to show you that anything is wrong. And so whenever you start kind of having emotions or whatever, odds are your parents are like, just, it's fine, like relax, like, you know. And it's like, if you grow up with a parent that's also keeps everything inside, who, because your parent is also an avoidant, odds are you are going to become like that as well in the future, right?
Yeah, and I think sometimes too, like there's so many different factors. Like it's never gonna be black and white with these things and how you grow up. And like we were mentioning earlier, sometimes, you know, maybe your parent is actually just not a great parent and they do some things that aren't great, or sometimes they're trying their best and they just don't mean to do what they're doing.
Exactly.
But I think too, like even for me, sometimes I reflect on my childhood and I'm like, I don't really know when or why I became such an avoidant.
Sorry to interrupt, but that's why the conditioning of it, I feel like that happens in your pivotal years, including your preteen adolescence, because it's like, okay, like your parents have a huge impact because they're your first sign of love. Obviously, like that's your caretaker for however long you live with them. But when you get into relationships at a young age and your friendships and everything, that is also your first sign of intimacy with either men or women and friendships. So it's like, if you came from your first relationship was like a bad relationship, odds are you're going to become an avoidant or an anxious attachment.
Yeah. And I think too, like even at least for me personally, like I know growing up, like I had a lot of support from my family and my parents, but I think because I was the youngest sibling too, there were times where obviously my brother was a few years older than me, so anything he did felt more important to me in the sense of like my assignments didn't feel like they had as much weight because he was in grade 8 and he was going to high school. And then by the time I got to grade 8, it's like he was in high school and his assignments and his work was obviously more stressful and more important at that age than it was for me. It was this ongoing thing of obviously he's always going to be older than me, so no matter what, where he's at is going to be a little bit more stressful, a little bit more important, but I'm going to get to that too. And when do I get that recognition? And not that my parents didn't give me that recognition. I honestly think it was more so in my head. I just said like, I can't say, and I can't stress out because obviously he's in like a situation which is a little bit more stressful. And with other things too, like jobs and whatever it might be, it was just a sense of, well, he's older. So I just feel like a lot of times it happens with, you know, the youngest versus the eldest. The eldest obviously takes on a lot of responsibility, and it just so happens that, you know, even if the parent's not making you feel like you're not supported or you're not important or what you're doing isn't important, it's just your own self kind of starts to think that way because you don't want to be a pain.
I saw a video too of the youngest sibling of like, you are the one that looks back on everyone, so the way that everybody is living their life, you kind of morph into that. Like it's like, okay, so my parents are all responsible and big shots, and my brother or my sister is a big shot and whatever, and it's like you walk the way they walk, you talk the way they talk, and it's like, at what point do you kind of hardens you a little bit, you know, because it's like, well, who am I? Like, you know. So I think, but again, it's like, I feel like all of these attachment styles, yes, they start when you're a kid, but it's who you meet along the way that really shapes that too. Like I
solidifies it a little bit.
Exactly, because like I've met your parents, and like your parents are very secure, and obviously everyone has their own problems, but like they're not coddly compared to a lot of parents that I've met. And like my family is the same way. Like very much like, I can trust that you are strong and capable and you can do it on your own. So naturally you almost don't want to disappoint that. And you don't want to let them down because it's like, okay, well, they think this of me, so I have to think this of me. And it does create this little toxicity of like, when can I open up? I'm the same as you. I hate crying in front of anyone. So it's like, but like, you know, my boyfriend, like he can cry, you know, whenever, and it's like, it's accepted. It's very much accepted because his family is also a lot softer than mine. But it's like, there's nothing innately wrong with both. It's just how you are in relationships. What is your attachment style? So the last one, let's talk about that.
Honestly, this was one that I feel like I learned more so recently.
Me too.
Yeah, I never really understood this one until very recently. But the last one is considered disorganized / fearful.
Yes.
Sometimes people call this avoidant as well, but mainly known as disorganized. And this is high avoidance and high anxiety. So this one...
What a combo.
Yeah. This one's a bit difficult because it's very push and pull. That's what I kept
Yeah.
seeing a lot of people describe it as. It's very push and pull. So you're kind of a mix of anxious and avoidant, in the sense of you desire closeness, but you fear it.
Yes.
And you want to cling, but then you get scared and you panic and you back off. So you're very inconsistent with your behaviors with your partner. You also have a lot of mixed feelings. It can be very intense at times because obviously that push and pull creates that.
Yeah.
And very, very unpredictable. You're clingy one minute, the next minute you're distant, which can be very confusing for a partner as well to try and understand that because, I mean, with anxious attachment, you can understand they're clingy, they need your reassurance, they need physical touch. With avoidance, you can understand they go slow, but they need some space, but you have to show that you're still there for them. With disorganized, it's fearful. It's difficult because you never really, I feel like it's hard to, as a partner, to see in their partner what they need from you. Like, do you need me to be close to you and reassure you right now, or do you need this space? And that's when, if you are disorganized, I think you really need to work on your communication skills.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it sucks too because it's like with the example given for fearful disorganized was if you have an alcoholic parent. That's like a big one because a lot of, functioning alcoholics or alcoholic parents, the example that was given in this podcast was if you have a mother who's, who drinks, she comes back home from work and she has a good day. She'll smother you in affection. Then the next day she's not having the best day. She has a drink. She becomes an angry drunk. You don't know how to handle that. Now she's yelling at you when yesterday she was fine. Then the next day she comes home from work, she has a drink and she's, regretful, remorseful of how she treated you. How do you even you don't know what to expect from anybody, so how do you show anything? Do you show anything, right? So that's kind of what the fearful disorganized is, and what a combo. I'm sorry if you have that, because
I know
that is a lot to manage.
That is because, again, one second you're very high anxiety and then the next you're like, oh my gosh, and then the next, I keep doing that, I need to stop. I'm so animated when I talk. Good. One second you're super, super high anxiety, and then the next you're like, I need to avoid everybody.
Yeah.
To try to deal with that in your brain, like, I struggle with just trying to understand my hyper independence.
No, literally.
I'm like, this is a lot. So to understand that is difficult. But I mean, we all strive to be secure, and as long as you're, again, recognizing that, you're recognizing your faults and the patterns that you have, and trying to understand like where they came from, where they stem from, because understanding the root of the problem will help you to understand your little triggers.
Exactly.
And because, like you said, it's very much so in your subconscious.
Yeah.
So if you don't do any work on it, it's going to stay there, and it's going to keep forming and solidifying there.
And the last point I want to make before we close this off is attachment theory does not define your personality. It helps define how you are in relationships. Yeah. And that's that was in a chart that I found. I'm not citation machine. I
use that so often.
Yeah, I know, same. But it's true. It's not exactly who you are, it's how you are in relationships. Like me and you, like, we're very secure in our friendship, but how you act in relationships and how I act in relationships are also different.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So it's like, it's not how I project it with you, it's how you are in maybe a romantic relationship. You're different from a friendship, you're different from your family, right? So it's not exactly who you are as a person, it's just how you interact with other people when it comes to a relationship. So don't hate on yourself if you're like, oh fuck, I'm disorganized, I'm avoidant, I'm anxious, I'm this. Like, notice how I don't say secure, because nobody fucking is. But like, rare. You know what I'm saying? So don't get down on it. I think the main thing is just look in a mirror and really just like understand who you are and how you are in relationships, and look at patterns. Like, look at all of your friendships and relationships that ended. Is it because of you? That's what you need to really realize. Like, what did you do? What was your compatibility? And I'm not saying you're at fault, but everyone has a part to play, right?
Yeah, of course. That's honestly a good point. Looking back at friendships or relationships that didn't work out, because I feel like everyone always wants to put the blame on the other. Yeah. Sitting there and saying, even if that other person did do horrible things, what did you do that also could have added to that?
Exactly.
So, anyways, I think that's like pretty much all we have to say.
That was very informative.
But that was a really informative episode.
Yeah, I'm proud of us.
Wow. Anyways, next week is going to be a very cozy episode.
Yeah. A little different.
A little different setting.
Yeah, it's a little different. Anyways, guys, yeah, so we'll see you next week with a cozy episode.
Yes.
I'm going for a vacation, so this is
unfortunately
pre-filmed.
Leaving me.
Vacation, I wouldn't call it that. A road trip against my will. So, yeah, so we'll see you next week.
Good morning.